and gentlemen, welcome back to the Expert Speaker Podcast. We have an incredible guest today, the one and only Charles Byrd, founder of Byrdword, expert in speaking and webinars and JV partnerships and organizing the systems and the processes. And we are happy to have you here on the show, Charles. Good to see you. Welcome to the Expert Speaker Podcast.
Thank you so much. Pleasure to be here.
I want to geek out on all the tools and the processes, and I'm really curious how you run your events. I know you do a lot of teaching with the online courses and with the webinars and the live events, so I can't wait to dig in to see how you think about speaking. Tell me how you got into the business that you're in now.
Yeah, so after a 15-year career in the Silicon Valley as a director at a billion-dollar software company, I was reaching 6,000 employees with my content trainings and launches, and that was actually a lot of fun, but I wanted to impact a lot more people and decided to start my own online training company, and did that a few years ago. And I created a course teaching entrepreneurs how to apply Evernote to their business and their life, because I just reflected on what tools had helped me the most stay on top of things. And then after I made that, I had to figure out how to market said course, and really dove deeply into marketing and strategy and immersed myself in that world.
Charles, I want to pause you there because I think there's some gold there. Sounds like a great beginning to the hero's story. You were making an impact. You went out on your own online course. Now, did you think when you're going to start this thing that it's going to be like a passive income stream and you're going to make money in your pajamas and it's going to have an automatic marketing, everyone's going to discover it? Or what were your expectations? Because you said a very good thing. You built the course and then you had to learn how to market it. What were your expectations going into the business, starting an online course? And did you think you were going to make money? How did you think you were going to sell the online course?
Yeah, so I actually didn't exactly know how. So that was part of the challenge and the risk. I started looking up sites that sold stuff, and you can find all these discount training sites. And I was like, well, that doesn't seem too cool because you can't control the pricing or anything else. So basically, I stumbled across Jeff Walker early on and got really excited about launches and the opportunity there. And then since that content was so good, I started buying all kinds of other programs, and then thought, hey, I'm going to build this master hybrid of everyone else's system, and it's going to work out wonderfully. And then figured out I was just chasing my tail in circles and realized I needed a foundational strategy. And for me, running out and doing a launch didn't make much sense. I had no audience, no reputation, no connections, didn't know anybody in the industry. So in the process of learning that, I focused on the foundational strategy of joint venture webinars. And it's been the backbone of how I built this business. And
okay, so
last week, we reached over 500,000 people in our marketing.
Wow. That was a JV webinar, 500,000 people?
That's how many people were emailed about it. Yeah.
Wow. Amazing. So you learned about the product launch formula, and you determined that your lack of relationships and network in the industry was going to be a barrier for that model to be successful for you. And then you discovered JV webinars. What made you think, did I get that right first, that you really need to have some relationships for this product launch formula to work for you?
Well, it's not so much that. I would say one of the early realizations I had before the course was even polished and in its beautiful format that it is today, it was just raw webinars that were recorded live. And I figured out pretty early on relationships were a fundamental building block of success there. And so I'd been asked to speak at events. So I had, quote, the webinar. It was my stage speech. And I sold my course from the stage in San Francisco at a conference. And the course wasn't even fully built yet. Basically, I had an outline for it, made what is to this day the backbone of my webinar. Now, of course, it's been revamped, but basically went up, got on stage, sold the course, built the course week to week, designing the next modules, coming on live and delivering.
Sold the course. Those 3 words, I want to zoom in and expand. What does that mean exactly? Take me back to you're on stage. Is there a table on the back of the room with brochures and CDs and order forms? Like, give me the real nuts and bolts of what did you actually have to bring into the room to sell? How did you actually capture the money? Was it by check? Was it by credit card? And was it like a pitch from the stage? So tell me about the speech and tell me about the stuff and expand on sold the course.
Yeah, so basically I did have a table at this event. I wasn't actually even allowed to pitch from the stage. So I just painted quite a compelling picture based on the need and opportunity that surrounds us relating to being organized to get traction in our lives and businesses. And then basically I had a swarm of people attack my booth when I was done, quite interested in it. I made some mistakes right up front. I had a machine to swipe credit cards there, but for whatever reason, I didn't use that. I figured if people had the link to buy online, they would.
Yeah.
I would not ever recommend. When you're at an event, you need to be able to make those sales right there. I probably would have made 15 sales, and instead I made about 4 because of that. But the 4 made me happy enough because that was the first time I'd ever sold the course. And so it, for me, was still the genesis of the whole thing.
What did you call it on that day?
What did I call the course?
Yeah.
It's the same name it has today, 0 to 60 with Evernote.
Ooh, so you nailed it on the first name, huh?
Yeah, I guess.
0 to 60 with Evernote. And what was the price on that first day?
I sold it for $400.
What are you selling it for today?
I'm still selling it for $400. Although when we do partner promotions, basically discounts are involved because you're presenting to other people's audiences and providing them a special limited window promo opportunity. So it's typically a 5-day open cart discount window before the price goes back to normal.
And normal's 400.
Yeah.
Great. Wow. So that's a heck of a deal. So your first speech, you take the stage, you sell 4. You should have had some better systems for capturing payment now, like a working credit card machine or even an order form. I like to pass out a piece of paper that says, fill in your credit card information here.
Yeah. So certainly that would have worked out for me better in that regard. But webinars, it's evolved to since, and I book 2 to 6 webinars a week. And I went from 0 partners or connections to working with some of the biggest people in the industry. In approximately a year and a half, we've generated 35,000 leads doing that.
That is incredible that you do. How many? 2 to 6 a week?
Yep.
What does your calendar look like in terms of how many are you doing per day? Do you do them all on one day? How do you schedule them? Because you know how people are with their schedules. So what is the secret to doing 2 to 6 webinars a week?
Yeah, so people frequently get the impression that I'm delivering 6 in a particular week because I booked 6 in that week, although that's certainly happened. When I say I book 6, maybe I book one for June, another one for November, one for January. So I'm booking 6. It doesn't mean they're directly on top of each other. Although, so I've done one webinar, got off it, slammed a can of soup, went to the next webinar, where I'm doing 2 back-to-back in a row. Typically, it varies, but typically we're delivering 2 live a week. I did 2 last week with Brian Tracy, one on Wednesday for my course that teaches people how to book 2 to 6 webinars a week. And then Thursday was on my Evernote course, which is people how to put their finger
Let's grab a little mini Sorry to interrupt you. I want to jump in on that course on how to book these things, because you say you got to book a webinar with Brian Tracy. And I say, tell me how you did that. So you are, I already know this, a master of, relationships and breaking through gatekeepers and getting to Brian Tracy or Brian Tracy's team to trust you to email 500,000 people. How do you do that?
Well, that particular one, as many of the big names are, which isn't surprising, that's a longer game. Of course, as you get to where we are now, we can get on a big player's calendar, and I can have a webinar booked in our first 20-minute call before they've seen anything that we do, just based on the framing and setup. But back then, I wasn't able to do that because I was brand new at it. So really, it's always about listening and providing value first. That's 100% the name of the game. It's actually not about you at all. It's about them and how you can help them, little angles, tidbits, introductions, tools, recommendations. And so the very first time I sat down with some of the bigger players at different conferences, I'm green as could be, don't know too much what's going on, but I could see what they were trying to accomplish, and for each person, give them a recommendation or some type of app tutorial that will help them meet their goals. And so that's how you start building relationships with the biggest people, because just because someone's amazing at marketing doesn't mean they're good at everything. Maybe they struggle with organization. I know big players doing webinars that are making 50,000 per webinar, and their audio sucks. So you can recommend, you can say, look, you're making this great impact. People will respond better if they can hear you better. How about, here's 2 microphone examples. Here's what yours sounds like. I literally did this for Ryan Levesque. I sent him a recording of what his existing headset sounded like against a few other mic recommendations to say, look, if you want to sound better, here's some really easy ways to do that. And at the time, I didn't know much about marketing. He knows a ton about marketing, but I still found a way to help him.
That's fantastic. And you probably communicated that by email?
Well, I hung out with him at 2 different events in 2 different cities. And I was also at the time in his, he had an online mastermind group. So he saw my name popping up there, and I was a student and client of his. So he knew who I was.
That is one of the more effective ways of building a relationship, is becoming a client with someone.
Yeah, it definitely helps.
Yeah, a great example. You went the extra mile. You added real value. So, you know what? I want to ask you about your live events. Now, you run live events, so you're teaching people. And I'm picturing you with a flip chart and some handouts. What's that like? And what is your philosophy of how you put that together and run an effective live event where you're at the front of the room?
Yeah, well, to give a brief origin story on our live events, they're focused on joint ventures, and I never intended to teach it at all. This literally is the reluctant hero story, because I was teaching Evernote. I still do all the time, but basically industry people started wondering how we book so many. And I was at a conference or an event in Aspen with one of my friends, and I kept getting Facebook pings and emails and people wanting private sessions after the main session for where we were at. And we were sipping some whiskey, and eventually I'm like, fine, if everyone wants to know this, I'm going to put on a live event and we're going to teach it. So we had a 2-month runway to create and market a live event, which, live events, that's
crazy,
not much time. And so by the time we were ready to start marketing it, we had 7 days until the event, and sold it out in that time, because people who'd been following my story know how effective I am at that. And what was an interesting byproduct was it was geared for me a few years ago, trying to make this whole process easier for someone newer, wanting and needing to get traction to grow a new business. It attracted some of those folks, but it also attracted heavy hitters doing like 140 webinars in a month, bringing in like 1.3 million, because they know, and now this is common for people who come to our events, one little tweak can equal hundreds of thousands of dollars in new revenue, just reframing how you're positioning things, the technology you're used to tracking things so things don't fall through the cracks. It's really cool because we're able to help some newer people, and we always have a ton of veterans in the room just feverishly taking notes and going, oh my goodness, I never thought of it.
Charles, the technology that helps you track things, if you could recommend one app or one tool to a speaker that would be helpful for a novice or an expert speaker, what's something that your most commonly recommended app for speakers?
Well, I am a partial and a broken record. It's Evernote every time, all day long. I'm a certified Evernote consultant and certified project manager, and there's no other tool on the planet that can capture everything in one place, both from your internal world, all your ideas, your tasks, to the outside world, from paper documents, receipts, forms, on the cell, on the phone, at work, and at home. So it's a wonderful place to capture everything. We're chatting here. I have an Evernote note up. I have notes on what we've talked about. I have a tag with your name on it. I use a tag called Notes. And this happens for every call I have with anybody everywhere. And I can pick up right where we left off, whether we're talking a week from now or 3 years from now. I'll know exactly where we left off and what's next.
Wow. Tell me if you've heard this before. I'm sure you have. I got into Evernote, started using it, tried to figure it out. Felt like there was like maybe some easier ways for me to do some things, lost interest, and I don't know, just didn't use it. I want to be able to use the Evernote, but I feel like my workflow and my mind is, I don't know, I'm into different stuff. What's your main selling feature on Evernote? What would you say to someone like me?
Yeah, by the way, that was my initial story with Evernote. I was like, this is getting hyped all over the App Store. This must be amazing. I downloaded it and I was like, it just makes notes. How would you run anything off this? It's kind of
right.
And then I rolled into the office in San Jose when I worked in corporate. One of the VPs greeted me. He's like, we're looking forward to your presentation. And I'm like, yep, next Tuesday, like usual. He's like, no, we need it in half an hour. So I go back to my office and I'm like, how am I going to pull all this stuff together? I'm sweating bullets. My stomach's a knot. I'm like digging through emails and SharePoint sites going, how am I going to get this together? And I was like, this is never going to happen to me again. I will create a system that lets me put my finger on anything I need in 5 seconds. And that's when I gave Evernote a lot more attention and then designed a system that lets people do exactly that. And the feedback we get is crazy. People, I kid you not, they say, you changed my life with tags and search. It's profound. So you're certainly not alone. And when I'm at events, because I go to a lot of events, and you're bumping into people you're new to meeting, and when they go, oh, what do you do? And I say anything related to Evernote, their eyes light up for a second because least they've heard of it.
Yeah, sure.
Because at least they've heard of it. And then the next thing out of their mouth is exactly what you said.
Right.
Oh, yeah, well, I know I could be using it more. I played around with it, but it didn't stick. And that's why I have a market. I can help all of those people, and I can help them very effectively. In fact, the promise of the Evernote course is spend 3 hours in the course. You'll save 3 hours a week going forward, which adds up to 144 hours of reclaimed time a year, which is 18 working days from a 3-hour investment.
That's pretty good, Charles.
Yeah, man. I'm
going to give you those 3 hours. I'm going to buy your course. I'm going to take those 3 hours, and I don't want you to give me the course for free, because then I'm going to put it into courses to take when I find myself with lots of extra time the growing pile of great content I've gone through the moment of downloading and enrolling to and not actually doing. So I'm going to buy your course. I'm going to give it my 3 hours. I'm going to put it to the test. That's exciting.
Well, I think you'll like what you find, and you're sharp, dude. You're gonna adapt quite nicely.
Well, I am in a real simplifying, optimizing, and streamlining phase in my life and business right now. So very excited about that. Before I forget, what's the website?
For that, it's killthechaos.pro.
Boom. Kill the chaos
.pro.
dot
'Cause
pro.
we want you to be a pro at killing the chaos. It's funny you talk about simplifying. I've got kind of a funny story about my friend Jay Facette. I don't know if you know Jay.
I do know Jay.
Yeah, he runs Mastermind to Millions and JVology. I met with him for like an hour and a half a day or two ago. Anyway, I was at one of his events, like a mastermind, a group of peers, like
Yep.
12, 15 of us. And the second day, I'm like, guys, I want to gift you this course so you can really take things to the next level. And Jay's sitting across the room and he's like, man, I know you and the quality of your stuff. It's insane, but I vowed to simplify things in my life. So I vowed not to load any new apps on my phone or computer.
Good.
That means I'm not going to load Evernote, which means I'm not going to take your course. And I'm like, Jay, thanks for announcing that to the room. I really appreciate it. And then we were out at dinner and I told Jay a story. So Jay's sitting here and I told him a story about a piece of furniture at my house, a recliner that a bolt fell out. And so when you reclined after work, you would fall out the side because it would collapse. So I called the store I bought it from, asked for a repair person. They said one would be out the next day. The next day, I'm walking my dog. We live near the country, so there's sheep grazing to the right, vineyards to the left. I live near the Napa Valley. The phone rings. It's the repair person. He says, I can be out in an hour. I'm like, perfect. He said, but I can only come out if you tell me the original invoice number from the receipt from 7 years ago. And I'm like, I'm looking down at the dog. Like, if I was at home, I wouldn't know where that is.
Sure.
That's ridiculous. Like, hold please, launch Evernote, search for the tag receipt and the name of the store. The original invoice comes up on my screen out on a dirt path. Read him the number. He comes out, fixes the chair. I tell Jay this story. He's like, that's it. I'm taking your course. I'm telling everyone to take your course. And
Wow.
he's a massive convert.
Wow. And what you've executed so beautifully with a great story, Charles, is story selling. You put context into, you made a great case, 3 hours and 148 return, 18 days, great ROI case. But the story, I could see the vineyard, I could smell the sheep. I was there with you and I was rooting for you the whole time to get that chair fixed. It's a good
Right.
story.
Well,
All right,
thanks.
killthechaos.pro.
That's right.
Oh yeah, I wanted to know about the lifestyle of Charles Byrd. Because
Yeah.
here's a man who could be at many events, and you are at many events, and you're also all about productivity and being efficient. And you know that going to events is not the most efficient thing an entrepreneur can do, energetically, and a lot of time in airports and taxis and hotels and blah, blah, blah. And you're doing these webinars. So tell me about the home life and what's the setup? Do you commute to an office? You got a home office and the webinars, and how much work is enough work for Charles? Give me the whole lifestyle philosophy.
Yeah. So I live in Northern California. I work from home. I did most of the time, even when I was in corporate. That was one of the reasons I decided to leave. Management took over and they're like, everyone needs to come to San Jose every day. I'm like, peace. So basically, yeah, this is where I live and work. I do go to a lot of events. That's where you build the strongest relationships and connections. It's been invaluable in growing my business, but at some point you start going to too many high-end masterminds.
Yep.
And then you're like one to the next, and you're like, but when am I going to launch my new product? Because I'm always on the road. So I toned things back a little bit this year consciously. It's basically slow down to speed up. And in doing so, we're converting our live event into a high ticket course. We're launching a productivity membership site. So basically, I work hard, but I have a ton of flexibility. And like next week, I'm going to be on vacation camping at a lake with my family. And I'll probably do some video editing and stuff while I'm there, which I enjoy. So it's this fun hybrid. It puts you in complete control. Of course, you have to work very hard, and being efficient helps a ton. But the freedom and satisfaction is unparalleled. I was actually telling my wife that today. If you're in corporate and you come up with an idea, you bounce it off your boss or manager, you need to win them over, and then maybe one or both of you go talk to the next level up, and then they go, well, why don't you do 10% of it and do it a completely different way? Versus I have my own team. I can say, this is what we're up
Yeah.
to. What do you think? They go, cool. It just gets done. It's extremely satisfying to touch so many lives following your passion. And I have a hot tub in my backyard, and I kid you not,
Hey.
I was prepping for the Brian Tracy webinars. I've fashioned a hot tub desk, so I will sit in
Oh,
my hot
yes,
tub
for the win. The
with my
hot tub
MacBook
desk.
Pro on this huge, safe, sturdy desk, and I'm literally sitting in a lawn chair in my hot tub, and that's
Oh, man. You just create a whole level of aspiration and vision. I'm picturing Charles out in the woods, the beautiful rolling hills of Northern California with the sheep and the vineyards, standing at his standing desk, preparing for Brian Tracy's 500,000 raving fans, standing in the hot tub. That's good, man. That's good.
It's how it is, and I adore it and I love it, and it's a ongoing challenge being an entrepreneur. It's got its ups and downs, but the satisfaction level and the creativity and kind of continuing to try to optimize the highest execution, because some days you fall completely off the horse, you're not as focused, and then you figure out how to get back to those fundamentals and come in stronger, sharper, accomplishing more. And the reason is, so you're working in concentrated windows, so you can spend the rest of the time pursuing your goals and your family life. In fact, right when we get off this interview, I've been waiting for 5 weeks for my new electric boosted board to show up, and it is here.
Oh, yes.
So when we're done here, I'm going to be flying around the neighborhood at about 20 miles an hour.
Nice. I'm excited. Well, that's awesome, Charles. You mentioned you have a team.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to know what that team looks like in terms of how many people, is it remote, is it everybody's full-time, part-time, is it on demand, and what was your progression as a team building? Who was hire number one, and what kind of mistakes did you make along the way for the people who are thinking, I might be at the point I need to grow a team now, but I don't know who to hire first. So tell me what it looks like now and what the journey looked like.
Yeah, so I have 2 full-time team members. One booked webinars for Brian Tracy, Jack Canfield, Mike Filsame for several years. The other worked with Eben Pagan for 9 years. So I was able to attract and bring on veterans, which simplify things greatly. So I love my team. They're phenomenal. And basically the catalyst back in the day was, actually I was at one of Jay Facette's other events, and a guy just sitting next to me, we kind of hit it off. We were chatting away, and I was booking all the webinars, building out the back end of the funnels. It was a one-man show, period. And I just figured out that was constraining, because I could only book so many if it took me as much time as it took to execute the build out and the delivery. I mean, it's doing everything. It's everything. So I'd been looking at outsourcing to the Philippines or something like that. And then I ran into this guy at one of the events, and we hit it off and hung out. And we just met as peers and friends. And one day I made a joke. I said, I sell so many of the Evernote scanners, I should create an affiliate link on Amazon, so I get a tiny piece of each of those. And I'm like, I don't have time to do it. I'll pay you $50 if you do that. And he's like, sure. I'm like, oh, really? You'll do that? So then that opened up the conversation to having him work with me. And then he helped me get the whole first layer off the ground, because I could do what I'm great at, connecting.
What would you call that role that he took for you?
It'd be back-end operations.
Okay. So you hired out back-end operations first.
Yep. And then he was with me for probably well over a year. And then I added
Full-time, remote?
It was all my teams are remote. I'm a huge fan of remote. And so I wouldn't say it was full time, but probably close to it.
So you
Pretty
paid him by
close.
the hour. You didn't put him on salary.
He wasn't on salary. I've done salary with many people, others are hourly, but it's so consistent it might as well be salary. And
Uh-huh.
basically then we started adding more people. I was up to around 5 or 6 people because we just kept growing and building. And then
And what were those other roles coming on as they came on?
oh, just people to help with funnels, people to help with connecting with more partners. I mean, even though I'm great at joint ventures, I hired someone else who is too, because then guess what? I don't have to do all of them. Now we can tag team and get even more traction. Or if I don't want to deal with it for a while because I'm creating a new product or something, our revenue doesn't tank because I stopped booking partners.
Sure.
So, and we've been a team of 3 for quite a while, and it's a good number. It works well. Then when I have events, I've got a whole friend network of experts in our space, from Facebook to funnels to copy to podcasting. I mean, that's one of the biggest benefits of booking 2 to 6 joint venture webinars a week and going to a lot of events. You end up with a network unlike anyone else, or most people, I should say. And that means no matter what you need, you know who can do it. And typically they're friends. So they are more than happy to help.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. All right. Any final thoughts, tips, and advice for the aspiring speaker or the speaker who wants to take their business to the next level?
Yeah. So, of course, you need to develop your quote signature talk, which you're one of the experts that can help people do that. Ideally, then you've got a back-end plan for that, whether it's your own consulting or services or digital products, programs. So having that in mind to sell off the back end or even from the stage, and then a whole nother platform for that you can use the same speech for is doing joint venture webinars. So it's a nice way to kind of augment what you're doing from the stage and reach just as many people on a weekly basis without getting on one airplane. So they do play very nicely together, and they can feed into selling your courses, your programs, your consulting, your group memberships, or whatever you've got going on off the back end. And yeah, just getting out there, the more you do it, the better you get. And it always asks for feedback from people to continuously improve and iterate. And I can tell you, even though I created a TV show back when I was in corporate, I've certainly gotten a ton better presenting because I do it all day. So the more you do it, the better you get. That's true with everything in life. So dive in and get to it. Make a decision. I had this made, says I can, I will, end of story. Commit to it, and the road just builds itself straight in front of you. You can't be wish-washy or you'll be walking on sand.
Good stuff. That was a nice little rapid fire of the tips there, Charles. Signature talk, develop a signature talk, have a back end, which is what people can hire you for after the talk, or products or service. Consider using webinars to reach more people and scale the talk. And to begin, get out there, get feedback, get better. Great advice, great stories, Charles. You got some great stories and some really valuable insights here. Thank you so much. If people want to learn about Evernote, or learn about Charles, or learn about joint venture webinar strategies like you teach, where can they find you?
Right. So basically, if you're interested in finding information on getting better or great at joint ventures, you can go to purejv.com, purejv.com. If you're interested in killing the chaos of information overload with Evernote, you can go to killthechaos.pro, and our company name is Byrdword.com for general information about our company. So there you go.
Charles Byrd, the master JV webinar partnerships, 0 to 60 Evernote, and lifestyle of the webinar speaker. Thank you so much for sharing all your insights today. And listener, thank you for being here at the Expert Speaker Podcast. We'll see you in the next episode.
Awesome. Thanks.
Thank you for listening to the Expert Speaker Podcast. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and leave us a rating so that more people can discover the Expert Speaker Podcast and so more people can be empowered to share their message. Be sure to go to www.expertspeaker.com and take the masterclass to learn how to grow your business and make money speaking. It's totally free and will change your business. If you're ready to work with Expert Speaker, you can apply. Just go to expertspeaker.com/apply and someone from our team will be in touch with you to help you grow your business with public speaking. That's expertspeaker.com/apply. We'll see you in the next episode.